Hey everyone, welcome to the next edition of the Tyranid Tactica. This is following up with the last video in regards to making lists. Today we're going to go over deployment with the same list I'm going to have here. We're going to use this list through the rest of the series for deployment and just general tactics, just following through with this list. And we're going to show other armies too, but we're going to do a sample deployment against 1500 points of Eldar. So I'm going to go through deploying first and deploying second. So we're going to go ahead and see how I deploy and why I deploy that way with this list. Hopefully this gives you some ideas when deploying your own forces. I know you might not be playing against Eldar per se, but I'm going to explain the reasons why I deploy each unit in each spot. So hopefully it'll give you some ideas when deploying against your own opponents. So if you have anything to add, feel free to toss it in the comments. If there's anything I missed, please add that in there as well. The more we can help newer players or even as experienced players toss some discussion up, the better. So let's go ahead. I'm going to briefly go over the list here, just as a reminder for the Tyranids, and quickly go over the Eldar list. Alright guys, quickly going over our Tyranid list again. Troops here, we got 30 Termagants. We got the Tervagon as troop choice, who rolled Catalyst for powers. We got 3 Warriors, 2 Devourers, Scything Talons, and a Barb Strangler. 2 units of Zoanthropes, each rolled Psychic Scream, so I took Dominion, Dominion on both of them. 2 Biovores in heavy support with the Tyranno effects, and we got a Tyranid Prime in the middle there, and then we have a Flying Hive Tyrant who has the Brain Leech Devours and also has Hive Commander, so the Tervagon will be outflanking. I rolled the Horror and Onslaught in him. I swapped the Horror out for Dominion. I feel that would be a little bit more useful. And in fast attack we got the Crone. So that's the 1500 point list we're going to be rolling with for these videos. Alright guys, quickly going over the Eldar list I'm going to be deploying against here. We got 8 Warp Spiders there. I know 2 of them aren't, but Corey's painting those, so just proxying quickly. 10 Dire Avengers on foot. HQ we got a Farseer and Autarch. Autarch decked out with the Mantle, the Fusion God and Laser Lance on the and also on the Jet Bike. Got the Farseer there. For this mission we're saying he has Prescience, Perfect Timing, and Scryer's Gaze. 6 Jet Bikes, 2 Shuriken Cannons, 10 Dire Avengers and a Wave Serpent decked out with the Hollow Fields, Scatter Laser, Shuriken Cannons, all that good stuff. 2 Fire Prisms over here, 6 Rangers, and a Crimson Hunter X-Arch with the Bright Lances and Pulse Laser. So we're going to go ahead and let the Tyranids deploy first, and we'll look at the table. Guys, for this sample deployment type we're doing here, we're just going to do a mission crusade with 3 objectives. So here's the table we're looking at. We're going to do Hammer and Anvil just for the sample mission here, just to show you our deployment tactics and everything. So looking at the table here, it's set up. You can see we got the 3 objectives, 1 in the ruins over here, 1 in the middle in these jungle area terrain there, and the other objective back here in the Imperial Bunker. So taking a look at this table, I'm going to talk quickly about what sides I'd want to deploy on and also why the objectives are placed this way. So I rolled and I got 3 objectives for Crusade. So rolling off here, we had the Eldar player get the pick, and Tyranids get stuck with whatever. So I'm going to talk about what I would pick if I did have a say in the sides here. So looking at this terrain, and based off the list I have, I know that I have my Biovores and Termagants are going to want to sit back as more defensive units, holding objectives, and just using the Biovores to bombard the Eldar forces. So taking a look at these 2 deployment ends with Hammer and Anvil, which is, excuse me, going this way. That is Hammer and Anvil deployment. For those of you that don't know, Dawn of War is long table edge to long table edge, and then of course there's the Vanguard Strike, which is just corners to corners. But anyway, we're doing Hammer and Anvil just for simplicity's sake here. So considering those facts too, and also that I may not have first turn, we haven't decided that. I'm going to show you both what I would do if I had first turn deployed first and whatnot. But we're going to go off the just base it off that we don't know what's going on yet. So we're looking at the table and figuring out what I might want to do. So keeping in mind the Biovores and the Gaunts to hold back, I know the Gaunts on either of these table ends could easily hold this objective here, and could easily hold this one back here. This one's great too for biovores, as they could sit up in the ruins there and use that for cover. And the Gaunts can sit below and hold the objective there. But the same thing goes for on this side. So now the big decision is, do you want to keep biovores out of line of sight, because you could use them in back here to bomb the Eldar, or you could, very well hold them over here, or even stick them up in the large ruins. Now, based off what I'm up against with the Eldar, with the Wave Serpents with their long range, might be better almost to put them out of line of sight, and also taking in consideration on this end of the deployment, just gonna come around and have a look here. We got a couple line of sight blocking pieces of terrain. So we got this one here, here, and then you can kind of hide in around the back there. Now the reason those, I think I'd prefer them over the other side, is being that they can completely block line of sight. So if I do not have first turn, I can use my flyer and hide behind here, put the crone to get a cover save. I could stick my zone thropes in the middle there, or I could even pile my gaunts inside of the Imperial bunker here and just have them come out. We do count that as ruins, by the way. It's not an actual building. So those are a couple options that you have. You could also keep the warriors in the middle for your synapse node, and also to remember that we're outflanking the Tervigon as well. So you do want to take that in consideration of what would be the best to attack if I got to choose my deployment zone with the Tervigon outflanking. So based off the looks of it here, I think I'd want this table end if I did have a choice, being in the fact that Tyranids are generally going to move forward, and you're going to only have a couple units holding the backfield objectives. So in saying that, you can easily just move forward up the middle here, send the Gaunts up to maybe hold that one, keep the warriors back for synapse. This all depends on how the game plays out. We're not actually going to play a game. We're just going to show you the deployment and the thoughts behind it. So you can send the Gaunts up there, keep the warriors back there, and then you can move your forces forward and utilize, say, the runes over here for cover saves, and up here as you move the Gaunts forward. And you can even use over here with the Flyrant and the Crone. If you did want to keep them over here, you could fly one up into area terrain, or even fly one into the middle there and use terrain in the runes there. Because the big thing with flying monsters, creatures, is you always want to keep them in cover, because they do benefit from area terrain, and will get cover saves if they're in runes. Because with all the high strength stuff, especially against Eldar, with all their pseudo rending stuff, you want to keep that in mind. So that's just initial thoughts at looking at the table. So I did roll here, and we're just going to say the Eldar chose this end because they want to use these two buildings as kind of a defensive fort against the Tyranids. So in turn, I guess we would get the table side we wanted, so it's good for us there. So we're going to say that Tyranids had the first turn for this first setup. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy all my army, and then I'm going to show you why I deployed them where and what to keep in mind. Now, being that we know what we're up against here, we're going to say the Eldar player is going to keep a couple units in reserve, obviously the flyer, and he hasn't decided if he wanted to deploy the warp spiders yet, so that's also going to factor in against our deployment as well. We have to keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy here, and we'll get back to you and we'll talk about how I deployed the Tyranids and why. Alright guys, so I went ahead and deployed here. This is based off the Tyranids having first turn and getting to deploy first. So we're going to talk over what I did here. Obviously the first thing you'll probably notice is that I didn't outflank the Tervigon. Reason being is that I have first turn. I'll have the first chance to cast off Power Seer based off him not stealing the initiative. With my luck, he probably would. But anyways, being the fact that I rolled Catalyst on the Tervigon, it's almost too good to pass up to not have it on the table first turn and give it over to my flyers. It could work out good that he outflanked onto the side where my flyers would be and give it to them then. But I feel that being for the first turn, with the amount of firepower the Eldar can dish out, I feel it's almost necessary to have it on him for the first turn, just in case grounding and whatever. So it's almost something you really need there. So I went ahead and stuck the Tyranid Prime with the blob of 30 Gaunts. So that'll be a great disruption unit. They don't have too much firepower that can generally hurt stuff, but I'm hoping by the end of my deployment that I could have, say, a Wave Serpent popped, or just use the Gaunts to just attack any infantry that might be on the table, plus the Tyranid Prime being with them. I rolled for Warlord trait as well and got the Scoring Warlord. Excuse me, got the Scoring Warlord trait, so that allows him to hold the objective even if his Gaunts get wiped out. So that part's actually great, so that was a big reason I decided on doing that. So we're going to go and take a look now at where I deployed, excuse me, and why. So obviously I deployed my flyers here up against the line. The deployment line actually conveniently when I built the table is, it's just these like little pieces on here. But anyway, the table, the line there actually is right on the deployment end, which so worked out pretty good for deploying this type of way. But anyways, I deploy my flyers behind the line of sight blocking terrain here, just in case the initiative is stolen, and also they're going to go up a flank here. And plus, as I mentioned earlier, I have a few pieces of area terrain right there, plus this piece here. And knowing that my flyer does have onslaught, realistically I could fly him forward and get him up here, then run him up into a piece of terrain, or even over here and run him in behind there. But generally that might not be the best way to go. But knowing that I have those powers, it's definitely something that you want to consider and keep in mind when you're deploying. So I know that I can use that to my benefit, or I could even use it on the crone per se, depending on what I want to do. Because generally the crone's probably not going to vector strike anything, but being that the objective's there, the crone does have a good chance to get in and flame something. So he may not deploy any units right in there. So, excuse me. So that's the reason why I deployed in the back here, out of line of sight, because if you come over and we'll have a look for anything that's over here, you may get a shot on the crone over there, depending on where you deploy. But the flyer's nice and safe, and most things that would have a shot at the crone probably wouldn't do too much, and it's behind enough that it would probably get a cover save anyway. So just in case the initiative was stolen. But that's the reason I deployed the flyers there. You never want to send your flyers straight up the gut right away. Depends on what you have set up too. So if I do a first turn and say there's a wave serpent sitting right there, I may want to send my flyer right in the middle, try and run behind it, and hopefully get some shots off on the rear armor before you can get that 4+ jinx save. There are situations where it can work out at that, but generally you don't want to do that. So you want to use your flyers to come up the flank. That way when his flyer comes in too, it forces him to kind of fly over towards my way, and that way I can hopefully get a better angle on the flyer. So looking at the rest of my forces, the Turbigon's right in the middle, behind these rocks here with two of the Zoanthropes. The reason I put him there is just so I could cast Catalyst over to the Hive Tyrant, then use the Turbigon to perhaps move up the middle here, shoot his gaunts out, and use the gaunts to move up and hold the objective in the middle. The Turbigon can kind of play floaty between these two objectives depending on how the game goes, because the Turbigon shouldn't get focused down too much with the flyers in his face, and if it does get focused down real quick, probably means there's not as much heat was going to my flyers, which is really great because they are probably going to put out most of the damage on with this army. So that's a role of the Turbigon, and being that he's troops, he can hold either of these in case the warriors fall out. For Synapse redundancy, when I spawn the Gaunts too, I'd have them come out and move up this way. I'd probably move the Turbigon away just so they wouldn't be killed. I have one brood of Zoanthropes here, as well as I'd have this brood of Zoanthropes moving up this way with the Tyranid effects, just as some redundant Synapse. And the warriors obviously would be babysitters for the Biovores. And I put the Biovores right out here instead of right in the building, just that way they can kind of shuffle around to the side or move up into the building to get line of sight against whatever target they might be hunting. And also I kept them close as well, in case he does decide to deep strike the warp spiders, so they can quickly brush into the building and get a better cover save. And the Tyranid effects will go up this side just as a line breaker. Being that if he moves up this way, he hopefully won't be considered too much, like he won't look like an immediate threat, but using him to kind of move up around this way and come up over in that area with his flamer to clear out any infantry, so he should fill that role pretty well. It's sort of similar to the deployment I used against the Tau game. If you watch that one, we put that one out last week or the week before, depending on when this video actually gets up. But it's a fairly similar deployment, just being with the way the terrain's set up. This is why I went and did it this way. So yeah, so that's this is how I would deploy with the Tyranids and the thoughts I would keep in my head when I deployed them like this. So being that I got first turn, I deployed not as aggressively as I could have, but I deployed safely to ensure that my flyers stay alive, just in case the initiative is stolen, because as you've seen in other videos with me, it sucks a lot, but it happens, it's part of the game. But now, excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and deploy the Eldar first, then we're going to deploy in reaction to that. So that the next deployment will have a bit more thought, not that there isn't a lot of thought put in this one, but it'll have a bit more strategy put into it, just being that we know where everything's going to be and we know where the firepower is going to come from. So go ahead, deploy them, and we'll see how it looks. Alright guys, so the Eldar player has deployed. This is me doing all of this. Corey's not here right now, and he probably know a bit how to deploy these guys a bit better, but this is how I'd play the Eldar at least, and this is how I went about deploying them. So the way I did it here, as I deployed both fire prisms up on this side, so the fire prism here is going to cover this firing lane, and also he can easily cut through the middle here. So he has this area pretty well cut off. And the reason I did that is just because I know that we got an objective here, and I know that Tyranids are going to have to move and take this objective, because I chose with deep striking the warp spider, so I know with the Eldar they can come in the back here and hopefully clear this objective off. At least that's the plan, but as the game develops, obviously tactics change. And in the middle here, I went with actually deploying the jet bikes, being that I had the 2 cannons with them, so hopefully the plan would be to move them up around the middle and use these firing lanes again to focus anything that comes up here, or focus down anything that's up there. Wave Serpent started up here. Reason being is that from up here, no matter where anything deploys, I'll have a shot on it, unless it's behind this building here. But even if the crones start behind there, for example, it's probably going to get shot at and take quite a bit of heat. So definitely have to take that into account with the Tyranid deployment. So then looking over here too with the jet bikes, the fire seer started right here. Reason being is that everything is in a nice cluster here. So depending on who I need to give prescience to, which it more more than likely would be, say, a fire prism or these dire avengers, but that would all be dependent on who goes where. The serpent doesn't need too much that it has the scatter lasers, but he's kind of there that he can kind of give a bonus where it needs to be, and also he can give perfect timing to these jet bikes, so hopefully I can ignore any cover saves or if night fighting is in play. I guess I should have rolled for that, but oh, whatever. And the what's he called? Altark's over here. Being that I know that the Tyranid player will probably use this building to hide the flyers, I kind of deployed him over there and kept everything over here, so that way nothing can get vector strike from the crone in case I lose initiative, and that way I'm not at too big a risk. The plan with him would probably be to move up and turbo boost way into the back corner, and probably with Tyranids there's generally not too much along the back, so having him back there, he can kind of go around and flank everything. So, and if things did have to turn around and shoot at him, he's going to have his 2+ rerollable cover save, so it's going to be hard to really take care of him. So that's my thought. Oh, I almost forgot too. In the blanking here. Rangers, that's what they're called. The Rangers are in there, in position to go down and hold the objective. We play here that if you're up a floor, it counts as being controlling the objective here. But being that the objective is right there, all you'd have to do is send 1 Ranger down and control that objective. So they would be in place to hold that off. And also too, from in the rooms there, they do have quite a bit of firing lanes and be able to draw a line of sight to quite a few things moving up the table. So that's the Eldar deployment, so I'm going to go ahead and deploy my Tyranids again, and we'll go over why I did that with the Tyranids and hopefully how I could counter this. So we'll come back to you with that.